Carl Sagan's The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark is both a love letter to science and a powerful warning against the seductive allure of superstition, pseudoscience, and ignorance. Written with clarity, passion, and urgency, the book serves as a manifesto for scientific thinking in a world increasingly threatened by irrational beliefs. Sagan's central premise is that science, with its methods of skeptical inquiry and reliance on evidence, is not just a body of knowledge but a way of thinking essential to the survival of democratic society. Sagan begins by lamenting the widespread scientific illiteracy in the general public and the dangerous consequences of a society that lacks critical thinking. He shares his dismay at how many people believe in astrology, UFO abductions, faith healing, and other forms of pseudoscience. He is not condescending, but deeply concerned. For Sagan, these beliefs are not just harmless quirks. They represent a breakdown of the very intellectual tools necessary for making informed decisions in a complex world. He draws a vivid contrast between science and pseudoscience. Science, he explains, is not a rigid dogma but a self-correcting process. It encourages skepticism, demands reproducible results, and remains open to revision. Pseudoscience, by contrast, often relies on anecdote, resists scrutiny, and is insulated from disconfirmation. The difference lies not just in the content, but in the methodology. To Sagan, how we know something is at least as important as what we believe. A recurring theme in the book is what Sagan calls the baloney detection kit, a set of cognitive tools that allow individuals to critically evaluate claims. These include recognizing logical fallacies, demanding evidence, entertaining alternative hypotheses, and understanding the burden of proof. He doesn't just advocate for science education in the abstract. He offers practical advice for how ordinary people can become more rational thinkers in their daily lives. Sagan also explores the psychological appeal of pseudoscience. People often gravitate toward magical thinking because it offers simple answers to complex questions, comfort in the face of uncertainty, or a sense of control in a chaotic world. Supernatural beliefs can be emotionally satisfying, even if they're intellectually hollow. He acknowledges these human needs without endorsing the illusions that arise from them, suggesting instead that science can be just as awe-inspiring and spiritually enriching. Throughout the book, Sagan emphasizes the ethical dimension of science. He sees scientific thinking as deeply tied to the democratic ideal. Both require transparency, the freedom to question authority, and a commitment to truth over ideology. A society that abandons science, he argues, risks falling into authoritarianism, where power is maintained through manipulation and myth rather than reason and evidence. One of the most moving parts of the book is when Sagan speaks about education. He expresses heartbreak that children are often taught to memorize facts rather than to think critically. He believes that the scientific spirit, curiosity, experimentation, wonder, should be nurtured from a young age. For Sagan, learning should be an adventure, not a chore, and science should be presented not as a dry subject, but as a thrilling exploration of the universe. He is particularly critical of media and educational institutions that fail to promote scientific literacy. Television, tabloids, and even mainstream news often amplify sensational claims without proper scrutiny, contributing to a culture of misinformation. Sagan urges educators, scientists, and communicators to engage the public more effectively, not with jargon or superiority, but with humility, storytelling, and genuine wonder. The book also touches on the history of scientific progress, showing how humanity has slowly, painstakingly pulled itself out of ignorance through inquiry and evidence. From Galileo to Darwin to modern astrophysics, Sagan highlights the courage and perseverance required to challenge entrenched dogmas. He sees science not just as a human achievement, but as a moral responsibility to our species and planet. Sagan doesn't shy away from existential questions, either. He explores topics like death, consciousness, and the search for extraterrestrial life, showing that science, far from diminishing these mysteries, deepens our sense of wonder. He repeatedly insists that not knowing something is a powerful starting point for exploration, and that uncertainty is not weakness but intellectual honesty. In contrast to pseudoscience, which often pretends to have all the answers, science thrives on curiosity and openness. He also addresses the dangers of willful ignorance in the face of real global threats, climate change, nuclear proliferation, and environmental degradation. These are problems that cannot be solved through belief or wishful thinking but demand evidence-based policy and rational cooperation. Sagan warns that if we do not cultivate scientific thinking, we risk being overwhelmed by problems of our own making. At a more intimate level, Sagan's writing conveys a profound respect for human potential. He believes that, despite our flaws, we are capable of transcendent understanding and moral progress. Science, in his view, is not cold or detached, but a deeply human pursuit that connects us to each other and to the cosmos. The capacity to question, to learn, and to change is what makes us uniquely powerful and vulnerable as a species. His famous quote about Earth being a pale blue dot is echoed throughout the book's philosophical undercurrent. Sagan's awe at the scale of the universe is never used to belittle humanity, but to inspire humility and responsibility. Knowing our true place in the cosmos, he suggests, should foster compassion, not despair, stewardship, not apathy. Ultimately, the demon-haunted world is a passionate plea for enlightenment in the truest sense, a call to defend reason, education, and scientific inquiry as the best tools we have for navigating reality. Sagan doesn't ask readers to stop believing in beauty or meaning, he asks them to search for beauty in truth and meaning through understanding. He believes that science can enrich the human spirit without resorting to illusion. Carl Sagan's voice throughout the book is calm, reasoned, and deeply compassionate. He sees ignorance not as a sin, but as a solvable problem. His optimism is not naive, but grounded in the belief that with effort, honesty, and open inquiry, we can build a better, more enlightened world. The flame of science, he reminds us, is fragile, but it is also our brightest light in the darkness.